On the morning of September 11th, 2001, New York City woke up like any other day, unaware that the next few hours would change the world forever. The sun rose above the skyline. People rushed to their jobs. School buses rolled through the streets, and millions went about their routines. But behind the ordinary rhythm of the city, tragedy was already in motion. 7:59 a.m. Eastern Time. American Airlines Flight 11 lifted off from Boston. A routine flight headed to Los Angeles. On board were innocent passengers, crew members, and hijackers who had quietly blended in with everyone else. Just 15 minutes later, another plane, United Airlines Flight 175, took off from the same airport. No one knew these two flights would strike at the very heart of America. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, inside the World Trade Center, tens of thousands of workers began their day. Phone calls, coffee cups, meetings, elevators rising and falling through the towers. The Twin Towers stood tall, symbols of ambition, progress, and the global economy. But at 8:46 a.m., everything changed. A roar came from the sky. People on the streets looked up. And then, impact. Flight 11 slammed into the North Tower, ripping a massive hole near the 80th floor. Fire exploded outward, glass shattered. Thick black smoke consumed the morning light. Shock spread instantly. For the first few moments, people thought it was an accident, a mechanical failure, something unimaginable, but not intentional. But then, 9:03 a.m., just 17 minutes later, a second scream from the sky. Cameras were already pointing upward. News channels were broadcasting live. Millions watched in real time as Flight 175 struck the South Tower, exploding into a fireball. There was no more doubt. This was an attack, a coordinated one. Panic washed through Manhattan. Sirens echoed across the city. Firefighters, police officers, first responders, everyone rushed toward the burning towers. They weren't running away. They were running in. Into danger, into smoke, into chaos. These men and women were climbing staircases packed with smoke, heat, and terrified civilians trying to escape. They knew the risks. They kept climbing anyway. At 9:37 a.m., the attack expanded. American Airlines Flight 77 crashed into the Pentagon. Smoke spiraled above the U.S. military headquarters. Now, the entire nation realized no place was safe. Back in New York, something unthinkable happened. 9:59 a.m. After burning for 56 minutes, the South Tower collapsed. A mountain of steel and concrete, once 110 stories tall, crumbled to the ground in seconds. A massive cloud of dust swept through Manhattan like a wave. People ran, stumbled, screamed, covered in white ash. Emergency crews were trapped. Others continued helping despite the devastation. And then, 10:03 a.m., a fourth plane, United Flight 93, crashed in a field in Pennsylvania. Passengers had learned about the earlier attacks. They fought back. Their bravery prevented the plane from reaching its intended target, likely the White House or the U.S. Capitol. Their courage saved countless lives. Finally, at 10:28 a.m., after burning for over an hour and a half, the North Tower collapsed. The skyline of New York was changed forever. The Twin Towers, icons of the city, were gone. What followed was silence, confusion, heartbreak. New York looked like a war zone. Streets were covered in debris. Firefighters searched through rubble, calling out for survivors. Hospitals prepared for thousands of injured victims, but far fewer arrived. Slowly, the horrifying reality became clear. Nearly 3,000 people died that day. Workers, first responders, passengers, families, friends. Each with a story, each with a life suddenly cut short. Across the world, millions watched in disbelief. People from every country, every background, every belief felt the shock. Vigils were held. Flags were lowered. The world stood still. But even in the darkest moments, something powerful emerged. Humanity. Strangers helped strangers. Firefighters worked for days without rest. People donated blood, food, supplies, anything they could. The city that had been attacked came together like never before. Ground Zero became a place of both devastation and unity. Hundreds of rescue workers continued searching day and night. The smell of smoke lingered for weeks. Steel beams twisted from the heat still stood like broken bones of the towers. But through the destruction, stories of courage began to surface. Stories of office workers who carried strangers down dozens of floors. Stories of firefighters who went back inside even after knowing the towers were close to collapse. Stories of final phone calls, last messages, and heartbreaking goodbyes. And stories of survival. People pulled from the rubble hours or even days later. As days turned into months, airplanes across the world tightened security, governments changed policies, and life in many countries was never the same again. Airports, borders, intelligence agencies, everything transformed. But beyond politics and global impact, the emotional scar remained deepest. Children who lost parents, families who never received remains, first responders who suffered lifelong health issues from toxic dust, memorials filled with photographs and flowers. Years later, the 9/11 Memorial and Museum opened where the towers once stood. Two massive reflecting pools now mark their footprints. The water falls endlessly, symbolizing both loss and remembrance. Around the pools, the names of every victim are engraved, each one a reminder of how many lives were changed forever. 9/11 is more than an event in history. It is a story of tragedy, but also strength. A story of destruction, but also unity. A story that reshaped the world, yet showed the best of humanity in the worst of moments. As we look back, we remember the lives lost, the heroes who ran toward danger, and the millions who kept hope alive in a moment of darkness. And we tell this story not just to mourn, but to ensure it is never forgotten. Because on that September morning, the world changed, and the echoes of that day still shape our lives today.